I arrived here in Madison in August of 2014 after way too many hours in the back of my parents' minivan. I was surrounded by enough stuff to fill probably 5 dorm rooms. It was clear from the start that I had seriously overpacked. But then I saw that guy across the hall try and fit not 1, but 2 lazy boy couches into his room. Sound familiar? I think a lot of us lived that experience on move-in day. But then I had one of those moments. Maybe you had one too, where something seemingly small happens, but you just know that nothing will be quite the same after that. I had just finished moving into my brand new but somehow already dusty dorm room in Witty 3B when a girl from down the hall came over to introduce herself. "Hi, my name is Ariela," I said. She asked me where my name was from. A little taken aback because where I come from, it isn't a particularly unusual name at all. "It's Jewish," I said. Her eyes widened. "Cool. I've never met a Jewish person before." I realized then that I had left my comfort zone far behind. I am the child of a religious refugee from the former Soviet Union. My grandparents brought my dad over here when he was just 13. Without a word of English and with only a few rubles to their name, they were determined to find a place where I could grow up celebrating my identity. On my mom's side, my grandfather was also determined to give me and my siblings access to a democratic society, and so he served in the US Coast Guard. Like many of you, my grandparents sacrificed a lot, and they did so that I could grow up, as I did, in a thriving Jewish community. That's why being the first Jewish person that some people here would meet has been both the most challenging and the most rewarding experience of my time here on campus. It has been both a privilege and a responsibility to wear my values on my sleeve and to represent my roots. Perhaps you felt this exact feeling too, as you had the chance to introduce a fellow Badger to your unique identity. What I didn't realize 4 years ago was that I was going to have my own series of first encounters. Some were more superficial, like my first encounter with that famous Wisconsin cheese curd. I still remember that shock when I heard that first initial squeak. But I'm proud to say that cheese curds are now a staple in my diet, and I envy those of you who grew up eating them. But other first encounters were much deeper. I met a dear friend. She's a member of the Ho-Chunk Nation from right here in Wisconsin, and she was the first Native American that I had ever met. Though we are very different, she showed me that she too came from a small but mighty community that taught her to wear her identity with pride. Take a moment to think about all the first encounters you've had here over the years with people who are passionate about things that you hadn't even considered. Being on this campus, I've met Badgers from the Molecular Archaeology Club, the official Dog Petters Club, Badgers from 3 different ballroom dancing clubs, Badgers who were simultaneously studying for their masters in TAing classes, and yes, of course, Badgers from the famous Wisconsin Cheese Club. I could go on forever. All of us have met students from different religious backgrounds, with different cultural practices, and with different political ideologies. Though we may have argued with each other, sometimes, even more than a little, we would not be who we are today without those first encounters. Many of us Badgers cannot think of a more tumultuous or polarized time in this country's history. or in this world's history. Then, of course, I talked to my dad on the phone, and he's like, Ariela, have you ever heard of the American Civil War? And as unstable as the world might seem right now, I can't help but think of all the people here today and of all the people who couldn't be here with us today, who have served in the armed forces and might be able to think of a tumultuous time or two in this world's history. But in today's world, where nothing is more validating than a Facebook like, and when it is increasingly easy to stick with what we know, we cannot be afraid to be uncomfortable. If being a Badger is about the endless process of sifting and winnowing, then encountering different people with different ideas must be a part of that process. And who knows, you might just be the first Badger that somebody meets one day. And you will show them that being a Badger means having an unquenchable thirst for discourse despite differences and a commitment to finding new experiences outside of our comfort zones. Back in high school, I learned an old Jewish proverb that has stayed with me ever since. It goes like this: we do not see the world as it is. Rather, we see the world as we are. And so, as we matriculate as Badgers, may we remember to surround ourselves with people who see the world differently than we do, because of who they are. Only this way will we have a more complete picture of the world, and maybe, just maybe, we can begin to understand our place in it.